Well, hey, good morning, everybody. It's me again. Yes, it's Friday here. Friday morning. I like to stay home from work. I can work here or I can work at work. I do it automatically. Anyway, working on the Atwater Kent. It's turned out to be a very learning experience. I spent the day before yesterday working on some of the componentry of it, cleaning the chassis and stuff. Cleaning the chassis was fun. Turns out it was a stainless steel chassis, but it's not true stainless steel. Just a big differentiation there. It wasn't a true stainless steel chassis. Apparently it is chrome plated. Because I'll show you in just a minute why I say it's chrome plated. I may be wrong, but anyway, talk about the components. I did some recordings a couple of days ago, and I got I'm going to trash those recordings. Those are not even going to live much further than today. So I'm making a new recording. I learned a lot about this old Atwater Kent and the old radios in general, but specifically this Atwater Kent. The resistors and capacitors on there, the dog bone resistors and the old wax capacitors, wax paper capacitors. When I started looking at this thing, the circuitry in it the other day, one of the capacitors was marked 101. It was apparently in the bypass circuit of the RF section. It was marked 101. 101. That's a 1,000 picofarad capacitor. That's not the right value for a bypass capacitor. Usually bypass capacitors are 0.1s, 0.01s, depending on what they are. RF would be 0.01s, 0.05, whatever. So that didn't make any sense, and it didn't match with the schematic. As a matter of fact, the schematic said it was 0.05. I couldn't figure that out, because 101 in a capacitor, like if you look at a ceramic capacitor, 101 is 1, 0, and then a multiplier, and that's in your nanofarads. So 101 means it's a 0.0001 microfarad capacitor. Anyway, that didn't make any sense. So I got online and looking around. I didn't really find what I was looking for, and finally I got on Atwater Kent website or forum, and some really nice folks sent me or told me that Atwater Kent has their own convention for doing that, and they sent me a link to the values. In other words, they had a list of what their numbers. 101 turned out to be a 0.05. I had another capacitor marked 409, which that thing would have been in the farads. So actually 409 was I forgot what it came up to. But anyway, 409 is actually a 0.1. Go figure. Anyway, I'm going to try to put the link to that in the description bar. And also the resistors. They have color codes on them, but they're not EIA color codes. I'm not even sure EIA was around then. I just don't know much about these old radios yet. But I found out the same thing as with the capacitors, that the resistors have, the Atwater Kent resistors have their own color codes, have their own proprietary color code, if you want to call it that. So there's a list there for that, and I'll try to dig up the link and put that in there if you guys want it. Anyway, now that I found that out, now I'm armed with a little more information. So I started going through the circuitry. You know, I set the chassis down after I cleaned it and all this kind of stuff. I took the RF chassis apart, started cleaning it, but you know, going through it, checking things, figuring out how it worked, looking at all the wiring, and what I went was I started tracing everything out according to the schematic, and it's pretty close. I'm actually using a schematic off a 808, which apparently is the same wiring as the 708. I did find a couple of differences, and I'll try to point them out here shortly. But basically, there was a yellow wire coming from the main chassis through to the sub chassis and splitting off, and apparently that's a rudimentary AVC, or automatic volume control. And automatic volume control is on AM very important, as what it basically does is it regulates the gain of the preamp stage. In this case, it was doing it in the cathodes, but what it does, it regulates the gain of the amplifiers in the front end, or the RF stage, in the IF stage. So when you get a strong signal, it cuts the gain down to keep your audio level constant. So when you tune your radio to a weaker station, it brings that gain up, and it keeps the audio level, tries to keep it constant. And what that does in AM, level means everything. Amplitude modulation, if your amplitude low, it's equivalent to low mod or low audio. High amplitude, more audio. So in other words, the more signal, the louder it is. And that's what the AVC does in these AM radios. It tries to keep the level constant. And all that is derived from the detector diode. Excuse me. And we get to that later, I guess. We'll show you. Very interesting stuff, man. That was one of them. This radio had been doctored on over its lifespan. I did find some boo-boos and some really horrific soldering. And I've cleaned some of it up, but I'm at the point now with this radio that I've got it tore apart, everything sorted out. Let's see here. I'm going to pan it over a little bit. And let's zoom in just a little more zoom. Zoom. Alright, here's the radio. Here's the chassis. It's RF sub chassis, speaker. I got the transformer behind me. I got the tuning capacitor out. But one thing that you might consider, do this without a major catastrophe. Let's see. Whoa! Hang on a second.
Go ahead.
Energy on my scanner. Anyway, here's the box of stuff I want to show you guys. Everything that I've taken out of this radio, I'm bagging it in groups. Of course, this is old parts, old capacitors. RF sub-chassis to main chassis screws. In other words, this is the RF sub-chassis right here. This is that's the screws that holds this. That way I have everything back where it come from. Okay? Power transformer. All the nuts, bolts, or the screws and the washers and everything for it. You get the idea. Tuner miscellaneous. Here's the dial, the pilot light, and the hardware to hold it on there. Tuner shaft. This is bolts to the front of the RF sub chassis. And it's got the gear plate on here, which interfaces with the tuning shaft, which has a little rubber, and I will get to that one day. Anyway, everything that comes out together, I try to keep it bagged in bags and name it. That way when I go to put all this mess back together, it'll go back just like it was 80-something thousand years ago. I've got all the components in here, all the tubes, and by the way, all the tubes in this radio check fine. So we're good there. Anyway, Move you over here a little bit. Get you all comfortable. Alright. Let's get that thing in frame. Anyway, this is the bottom side of the RF chassis. You got your oscillator tube socket here, your RF tube socket, I think your first detector, and then your IF amplifiers and all this. But let me show you something. They have resistors. Where are you? Right here. This little loop here is a resistor. All this cloth covered looking wire, that's resistors. And then right here, that viewfinder is extremely hard to see. Where are you? You're right here. Here's these wax capacitors right here. All these will get replaced. All the wiring, all this rotted wiring will get replaced. It's really bad, but it's really nothing to it. It's going to be tedious, but what I intend to do next is each one of these cans here, all these tuning cans, I mean these IF cans, I'm going to make markings of what each one of them connects to. Gary, you got to detail this stuff or you'll be in a world of hurt. Anyway, I'm going to mark each color coming out of this to each can. Take these cans off, and then when I get these cans off, I'm going to work on cleaning this chassis up, because this chassis got a little bit of rust on it. So I'm going to clean that up, buff it up, and then I'm going to go in here to all these transformers here and all that rotted wiring and everything I'm going to replace. I'm going to try to replace it with the same color wire. I'll get all this thing done, get the components replaced in it. It's got one of these resistors here is bad. I marked it already. I checked all this stuff out with ohmmeter and everything yesterday. But this one's marked bad. So I'll replace it with a can't just pick up an order wire resistor. I'm just going to put a modern equivalent in there. It's going to be underneath. Nobody's going to care. Next time this radio ever gets looked on, I probably won't own it. If it, by then I won't care. Anyway, that's really all it needs, is to be cleaned up, change the resistor, change all these capacitors. Everything else check good, change the wiring on it, change the bad capacitor, change this bad resistor, change the wiring on the coils, clean the chassis. This side will be ready to go. Yay. Now for the main RF chassis, or the main chassis, I guess you could say. Remember I told you that I believe this was not a stainless steel chassis. I mean, it still could be, but I've never seen a real stainless steel flake off. Some of this did. Some of this stainless steel flaked off. But I spent a lot of time cleaning this off, and this area right here is where the speaker sat. So underneath that's where the little miceys had their little party. So a lot of staining there. I used navel jelly, that pink navel jelly. Now, I taped this off with some painter's tape just to quarantine it to this one area, and I used navel jelly on this. Right here behind this volume control, still a little bit of rust. I didn't get to that because I need to take this volume control out, and a little bit of rust there that I got to deal with. But what I'm thinking I'm going to do is, once I deal with this rust here, don't think you can see it, but where this is rusted up, you can see little flakes of stainless steel. I think this was stainless steel plated. not true stainless steel, or chrome, should I say. I think this is chrome plated. This is not a true stainless steel chassis. It's chrome plated, which means I'm not going to strip all this and re-chrome it. I think for what it is, yes, it is a collectible radio, but I'm going to take a buffing wheel of this after I get done, cleaning all the rust off of it the best I can. I'm going to take a buffing wheel to it, make it all shiny and pretty and all that stuff, as shiny and pretty as I can, and see what it looks like. And then if I'm happy with the way it looks like, if I get it shiny enough, I'm probably just going to spray some clear lacquer on it, protect it, and be done with it. Move on. Oh man, here's a rotten spot of this stuff right here. Let's zoom out just a little bit. We're going to get everything, but all that rotted black wiring is the heater filament. And right in here, right there, is, of all things, a 100 ohm resistor. That little spot right there. This goes to the pilot light. That's a 100 ohm resistor. Wow. It's a 3-volt lamp in there, and they use this 100 ohm resistor to drop the voltage in it to keep the voltage to the lamp about 80% of maximum, and that makes that light or lamp, that pilot lamp, last forever. And I checked that pilot lamp. It's still good. You don't see that much. Various capacitors. I think, let's see, one of these strips was bad. Here's these little resistors again. It looks like wires. It's got the little knobs on them. One of these is open, but not worried. Wrote the parts list down. I know what I need, so no biggie there. All this wiring still needs to be replaced. This white wire in here actually feels pretty good. I may make an executive decision to leave it alone, but some of this other wiring is so bad. So if I'm going to take this blue out and replace it, and the red out and replace it, I may as well just do it all. So anyway, see, I got some more capacitors in here. I've got 1, 2, 3 capacitors, 4 capacitors, actually capacitors. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that I see. Then you got a capacitor block. Let's see here. These old radios are something else, and I guess they had to do the best they could what they had at the time, technology-wise. Right here is a capacitor block. This thing's got a warehouse full of capacitors inside it. Of course, none of them are good, and it's a block. Got a bunch of connections on each side. It's a dual-sided board inside here, all with tar. A bunch of capacitors in here. This will have to come out, be untarred, and all that crap cleaned out of it. All the tar and the gunk and all the old capacitors, all that needs to be cleaned out, and I'm going to restuff it with new capacitors. I've seen a video or two about how they did it, and I'm going to try to find them and re-watch it. But I'm just going to take the thing, mark where everything's going to this color-wise, as far as leads. I'm going to take everything loose, take this thing out, and take it apart. Then I'll figure out what I want to do from there. I may wind up making this bigger, to where I can put more components in it. It is something kind of special to these radios, but something I was thinking about. Yes, I could restuff this and go back like it was, but I'm considering you don't have a choice. I was actually originally thinking about restuffing these capacitors. Let me find you one you can see. I was thinking about restuffing these capacitors here. You can see them. Put that thing. Negative. Well, alright then. Nothing wants to coordinate this morning. Where are you, capacitor? Awkward moment. mind ain't thinking this morning. Right here. These capacitors, these old wax capacitors. Think about restuffing them. On the other hand, that is going to be a lot of work. A lot of work. Kinda, ooh, don't do that. See on my nose hair. Let's zoom this bad boy out. I'm at a point now where, how deep do I want to go in this restoration? Is this a restoration, or is this a repair, or a hybrid repair restoration, which I guess you could say it is anyway. I originally said that I'm going to completely restore it, and I want to restore it as close to 100% factory as I can, which means restuffing the components. Even the dog bone resistors, I'm going to try to take one of them that I see that's bad, take it out and use it as a guinea pig to see if I can figure out how to restuff it. I think I'm going to just put it in a vise, both ends in a vise very carefully, and drill it out. See what happens. It's already bad. Can't hurt it anymore. So that's where I'm at. I hadn't decided if I want to, just like take my little yellow film capacitors that I love to use on regular radio restoration and just put it in here and take them molds out and not worry about restuffing, or restuff them, make it look authentic, which is a job. Don't know which way I want to go with this, folks, but that's just a little update. I'm going to use this video to experiment with. That's why I didn't want to keep it too long. But anyway, peace be with you guys. Y'all have a wonderful weekend, or whenever y'all watch this, if you do watch it. God loves you. God bless y'all, and we'll talk to you later. Adios.